Welcome to the Branding and Packaging Lecture Series. In this video, we cover what a brand is, brand equity, brand loyalty, and types of brands. The success of any product depends partly on the target market's ability to distinguish one product from another, and branding is the main tool marketers use to make that happen. Think about standing in the grocery aisle with 20 options in front of you. What makes you reach for one product over the one sitting right next to it? It's probably not something you consciously think about, but a decision is being made, and branding is almost always behind it. Whether it's a logo you recognize, a color scheme that feels familiar, or a name that carries a certain reputation, branding is shaping your perception before you've even picked the product up. That's what we're going to spend most of our time on in this lecture series. Understanding what branding is, how companies use it strategically, and then how packaging extends those same ideas to the shelf. Let's start with the definition. A brand is a name, term, symbol, design, or some combination of those things that identifies a seller's products and differentiates them from competitors' products. The word differentiates is key. The focus of a brand is to set one product apart from another. Without branding, a car is just a car. With branding, it's a Toyota, a Honda, or a Lexus. And that distinction carries meaning for millions of consumers. Every brand has two components, a brand name and a brand mark. And it's important to understand the difference between the two. The brand name is the part of the brand that can be spoken. Letters, words, and numbers. Acura, Audi, Aston Martin, BMW, those are all brand names. You can say them out loud, spell them, and write them. The brand mark is the visual element, the symbol or logo, that cannot be spoken. You can't say the Nike swoosh, you can only show it. You can't verbally describe the Apple logo in a way that communicates the brand. You have to see it. That visual recognition is what makes brand marks so powerful, especially in advertising, where a symbol alone can trigger immediate brand association. Now, it gets a little interesting when the brand mark and the brand name are the same thing. Take Jeep. The word Jeep is the brand name, but that same word written in that very specific font is also the brand mark. Same with GMC and with Land Rover, which is always rendered inside a particular oval. So the two can overlap, but what defines the brand mark is the consistent styling, the specific font, the shape, the graphic treatment. The consistency matters because the moment a brand starts varying how its mark appears, it loses the instant recognition it's worked to build. The Jeep mark is always going to be the Jeep mark, not just the word, but the word in that exact treatment. Branding serves three main purposes: product identification, repeat sales, and new product sales. Of these three, product identification is the most important, and the reason is logical if you think through the chain. If a customer can't identify your product, they can't buy it. If they can't buy it, you can't generate repeat sales. And if you can't establish a recognized brand, you won't be able to leverage it for new product sales either. Everything depends on identification first. Branding allows marketers to distinguish their products from all others in the market. And without that ability to distinguish, you're essentially invisible to the consumer. Repeat sales come second. The best generator of repeat sales is a satisfied customer, and branding is what makes that repeat purchase possible. It helps people find the product they loved last time, and just as importantly, helps them avoid the one they didn't like. Think about a time you had a great meal at a restaurant and went back specifically because of that experience. The brand, the name on the sign, is what made it possible for you to find that experience again. Then, new product sales. When a well-known, well-respected brand introduces something new, consumers give it the benefit of the doubt. They look at the company first, then they look at the existing product line, and that accumulated credibility makes them more willing to take a chance on something unfamiliar. Think about how Apple launches products. Customers evaluate Apple as a brand, then the iPhone, then the iPad, before they even start evaluating whatever the new product actually is. The brand does a lot of the selling before the product ever makes its case. Tying all three of these purposes together is the concept of brand equity. Brand equity is the value a well-known brand adds to a product above and beyond its functional benefits. It's what makes someone willing to pay more for a branded product than a generic one that does the exact same thing. We've talked about this before. A store brand pain reliever and Tylenol contain the same active ingredient in the same dosage. But some people will pay more for Tylenol. That price difference is brand equity in action. Brand equity also captures all the associations people hold about a brand, positive and negative. A brand with high awareness, perceived quality, and brand loyalty among its customers is said to have high brand equity. Brand equity matters for three big reasons. First, it helps products stand out in a crowded market. When shelves are full of options, strong equity is what makes a brand get noticed and chosen. Second, it builds resilience. Brands with strong equity recover faster after a crisis than those without it. Johnson & Johnson's Tylenol tampering crisis in the 1980s is a classic example. The brand had built such strong equity that it survived something that could have permanently destroyed a lesser brand. And third, brand equity actively guides the decisions consumers make at the point of purchase. High brand equity is essentially what makes sustained product identification possible. You achieve it by consistently building trust and quality over time. Measuring brand equity is challenging because it's partly perceptual, but marketers use four main approaches. The first is price premium. How much more will a customer pay for your brand versus a no-name alternative? The larger that gap, the stronger the equity. The second is customer loyalty. Do customers keep coming back even when cheaper options exist? The third is perceived quality. Do consumers genuinely view your brand as superior even when the product specs are similar to a competitor's? And fourth is brand awareness and associations. How quickly do people recognize the brand, and what feelings and ideas do they connect to it? All four of these together give marketers a picture of how much value the brand itself is adding to the product. Now, let's talk about brand loyalty specifically, because it connects directly to the repeat sales purpose of branding. Brand loyalty is a consumer's consistent preference to purchase one brand over all others in a category, even when cheaper or sometimes better alternatives are available. True loyalty goes beyond convenience. It's rooted in trust, emotional connection, and alignment with what the brand stands for. A customer who buys a brand simply because it's the only option available isn't truly loyal. Loyalty shows up when they have a choice and still pick the same brand every time. Brand identity is what creates that connection, and brand loyalty is what sustains repeat sales over time. Marketers recognize four types of loyalty, and you can probably place yourself in one of these categories for at least a few product types. The first is hardcore loyalty. Customers who always buy the same brand. No exceptions. Think about someone who will only drink Chick-fil-A lemonade and won't touch anything else. Or someone who exclusively buys Nike and won't even consider Adidas. It doesn't matter what's on sale or what their friends prefer. That brand is the only option for them. Hardcore loyal customers are every brand's dream because they are essentially immune to competitor advertising. No matter what a competitor does, these customers aren't moving. The second type is split loyalty, where a customer is consistently loyal to 2 or 3 brands at the same time. Maybe you alternate between Chick-fil-A and Raising Cane's, and nowhere else. Or you'll only buy your coffee from Starbucks or 7 Brew, but you never go to Dunkin'. You're loyal just to a small set of options rather than one. From a marketing perspective, split loyal customers are valuable but also vulnerable because a competitor that wins them away from one of their 2 or 3 brands still has a shot at becoming their new exclusive choice. The third type is shifting loyalty, where customers move their loyalty from one brand to another over time. A good example here is streaming services. Maybe you were a Netflix loyalist for years, then shifted to HBO Max when it launched and had all the content you wanted. And now you've fully moved to a different platform. You were genuinely loyal at each stage. You just moved on as your preferences or the value proposition changed. This also happens a lot with fashion brands as individuals go through college and move to being young professionals. Their tastes evolve. Shifting loyal customers aren't disloyal, they're just responsive to change. And the fourth type is switchers, who have no loyalty whatsoever. They buy whatever is cheapest, whatever has a good coupon, or whatever is most convenient that day. Think about someone who just grabs whichever energy drink is on sale at the gas station. Monster, Red Bull, Celsius, Reign, it doesn't matter. Switchers are the hardest customers for brands to retain and also the most expensive to pursue because there's no emotional connection driving their purchases. Only price and availability. You can win a switcher today with a promotion, but they'll leave just as easily tomorrow. To illustrate how powerful brand loyalty can become, consider that some consumers have permanently tattooed brand logos on themselves. Harley-Davidson, Coca-Cola, Starbucks. It's a striking example, but it makes the point. When a brand becomes that deeply tied to someone's personal identity, that is brand loyalty at its most extreme. That kind of connection doesn't happen by accident. It's the result of consistently delivering on the brand's identity and values over a long period of time to the point where the brand becomes part of how that person sees themselves. Now, let's look at the types of brands a retailer can carry. There are 2 main ones that we will talk about today: national brands and private brands. Each one has a different ownership structure and a different strategic purpose, and understanding the differences matter because each type performs differently depending on the product category and consumer. The national brand, also called the manufacturer's brand or name brand, is produced by a well-known company. Jif peanut butter is a classic example. Made by a well-known manufacturer, sold nationally. But here's a nuance worth noting. The term national can be misleading. Take Whataburger. Whataburger manufactures all of its own food products, which makes it a manufacturer's brand. But Whataburger only operates in about 17 states, so calling it national doesn't quite fit. Manufacturer's brand is the more accurate and precise term, and it's the one we should default to. Now, here's an interesting wrinkle. Whataburger has started selling their condiments in grocery stores, which raises a question. Can you buy Whataburger spicy ketchup in a state where there's no Whataburger restaurant? Possibly. So the lines can blur, but the key qualifier for a manufacturer's brand is that the company produces its own products and controls the brand. The second type is the private brand, also called a store brand or private label. This is a brand owned by the wholesaler or retailer themselves. Great Value peanut butter is a good example. Private labels perform best when the product differentiation is low, meaning customers can't tell a meaningful difference between the store brand and the name brand. If there's no real difference between Great Value crunchy peanut butter and Jif extra crunchy in terms of taste or quality, the store brand wins on price. Retailers love private labels because there are minimal marketing costs and they generate about 10% higher profit margins on average compared to manufacturers' brands. The retailer is essentially capturing the margin that would otherwise go to the manufacturer and to advertising. 53% of consumers actually use store brands to decide where they shop. And since a store brand is only available at that specific retailer, it becomes a reason to choose one store over another. A trusted store brand can genuinely differentiate a retailer from its competitors in a way that manufacturers' brands cannot, because manufacturers' brands are available everywhere. The next branding strategy we're looking at is the choice between individual branding and family branding. This decision comes down to one central question. Do your products have enough in common that putting the same brand name on all of them makes sense, or are they different enough that each needs to stand on its own? With individual branding, a company gives each of its products a completely different brand name. This strategy is used when products vary greatly in use or performance. Procter & Gamble is an excellent example. Pampers for diapers, Tide for laundry detergent, Charmin for toilet paper, Febreze for air freshener, Dawn for dish soap, Crest for toothpaste, and so on. Every product has its own distinct name because those products vary enormously in what they do and how they perform. Putting a single umbrella brand on all of them wouldn't make sense. And it could actually hurt the overall brand if one product ran into trouble. If Tide had a quality issue one year, you wouldn't want that to damage consumer confidence in Pampers. Individual branding provides a kind of brand insulation. Family branding is the opposite approach. Multiple products share the same brand name. This works best when products are similar in use or performance and serve the same general target market. Axe is a clear example. Axe hair gel, Axe shampoo, Axe deodorant, Axe body spray, Axe shaving gel, and so on. Before you even read the specific product name, you see Axe. That works because every product in that line serves the same target market and falls into the same personal grooming category. The shared name reinforces the brand with every product the customer buys. Disney does the same thing across a much broader range. Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Lines, Disney Radio, and Disney Stores all lead with the Disney name, creating consistency and trust across everything they offer. A family name also makes launching new products easier. When Axe releases a new product, it immediately inherits the brand recognition and trust the Axe name has already built. The distinction to remember this: Procter & Gamble uses individual branding because its products vary widely in use and performance and serve very different consumer needs. Axe and Disney use family branding because their product lines are cohesive and serve consistent audiences. When products don't vary widely, the shared brand name becomes a source of strength rather than a liability. When they do vary widely, individual branding protects each product and lets it build its own identity. The last branding strategy we're covering is co-branding, which means placing 2 or more brand names on a single product or its packaging. The prefix co tells you there are at least 2 brands involved. Co-branding is used when a company wants to expand its reach, share costs, or enter a market where it has limited presence on its own, and partnering with another brand accelerates that. There are 3 types, and 2 of them are easy to confuse, so let's go through each one carefully. First is ingredient branding. This is where a branded component inside the product is identified and 2 separate products are physically combined into one new product. Tide plus Downy is a good example. You take Tide, you take Downy, and you combine both ingredients into a single bottle. That new product has both brand names on it, and neither brand would have been able to create that same product alone. Ingredient co-branding benefits both parties. Tide gets the softness reputation Downy brings, and Downy gets placement in laundry detergent aisles it might not otherwise reach. A few other examples are Reese's Oreos and Glad trash bags with Gain Original Scent and Febreze Freshness. Ingredient co-branding is the only type where the 2 products are actually merged into something new. Next is cooperative branding. Here, 2 brands appear together in advertising and give each other equal treatment, borrowing from each other's brand equity. Both brands have high equity, and by appearing together, they share the cost while benefiting from each other's reputation. The products are not combined, and the advertisement is not suggesting you use them together. Dr. Pepper and McDonald's in the same ad is an example here. Both have strong brand equity. By pairing them in one advertisement, you can either double their reach or split the cost in half. Nobody is suggesting you pour Dr. Pepper on your McRib to create a new product. They're simply sharing advertising space and leveraging each other's brand strength. Other examples include MasterCard advertising with Apple and Spotify advertising with Starbucks. This is especially useful for brands that want to reach each other's customer base without the expense of a full solo campaign. Third is complementary branding. This is where 2 products are marketed together specifically to suggest that you use them at the same time. Red Bull and vodka in the same advertisement is one example. Even though the products are in separate containers in the ad, implying you mix them. Another example you might recognize is Bluebell ice cream with A&W root beer. This advertisement shows the products being combined in a root beer float. Other common examples are peanut butter and jelly brands advertising together, or a chip brand paired with a salsa brand. The products may naturally go together, and the co-marketing reinforces that usage. Unlike cooperative branding, the goal isn't just to share equity and split costs. The goal is to suggest a specific usage pairing and make both products feel more essential by linking them. The way to keep cooperative and complementary branding straight is to ask yourself one question. Is this advertisement suggesting I use these two products together? If yes, it's complementary. If no, they're just sharing advertising space and borrowing from each other's equity. It's cooperative. Ingredient co-branding is always easy to identify because it's the only type where the two products are physically combined into one new product. That wraps up our discussion on branding strategies. The next video in this lecture series discusses packaging.